Good morning, this is Angela with Permaculture. I'm coming to you from my front yard this morning. I am using my brand new phone that I got yesterday. I had been filming on an iPhone 5 and using an iPhone 5 forever, basically. And because in permaculture, we want to use things as long as they're still functional, right? We want to use things until they're worn out and we get the full benefit from them. Sorry, there's car noise. I'm not a big fan of planned obsolescence, so I stubbornly used my old phone until it just had too many issues to continue using. So hopefully my video quality and my sound quality will improve as I'm now using the new SE. I am in the front yard today, and this is a bed that has changed shape over the years. And I wanted to talk about a permaculture principle today, obtain a yield. And I'm going to discuss that concept through particularly one plant. So this part of the yard last year, a year ago, was the driveway, and that has come out. But this bed has been here since we bought the house 11 years ago. It was originally the first year I grew pumpkins and dahlias. It's really transformed over the years as I learned to graft fruit trees. I have put in early Laxton plum, and then there's a Stanley plum. And I had a quince in here that really struggled from rust, so I took it out. There's a whole bunch of other things in this front bed. I am trying more and more to change the front bed so that it has a really good curb appeal and aesthetic quality while still manages to grow the things that I want in it. In terms of food and medicinal plants, we're looking at valerian right here, which is a medicinal plant, obviously. I've struggled to find the purple flowered valerian. If you have access to those seeds, I would love to get some. I can only find the white flowered valerian, which is very nice and has all the medicinal qualities. But there's also a purple flowering variety, and I really love how light and ethereal the stems and the flowers are, and I love how the wind can kind of bounce them around. I love that look of the plant, but I would love to have the purple flowered variety. So here's my early Laxton plum tree, which you can see is having a little bit of aphid issue. It makes the ends of the leaves curl, and luckily it's about time for all the ladybugs to be moving in. Okay, so in this front yard bed, have a path here, have an arbor on which I grow 3 different kinds of grapes. You can see one of them is a little bit, I need to string it back up when I prune it this fall. I need to get it back up against the arbor. I grow native strawberries for ground cover. I use mulch for ground cover. I have all kinds of ornamental things in here as well as medicinal plants, but I have a lot of edible things. This bed here, you can see where I ripped out my quince, and this is all getting changed into an herbaceous border with medicinal and aesthetic plants. I have some low-growing roses. I have all kinds of flowering things in here, but this is getting reworked, so this part is a work in progress. So in permaculture, we have this principle called obtain a yield, which makes sense, right? If you are farming or you are working, you are giving your labor, you are expending energy, you want to get a yield from that. You want to obtain something. Please forgive the bus that's going by. I've said that many times, like living on a bus route and having access to public transportation is a good thing and is good permaculture. But it can be a little noisy. Okay, so as I was saying, obtain a yield. We're expending energy. In permaculture, we often think of obtain a yield as strictly the harvest of food, right? Of fruit and veg and meat and dairy. It's more than that. It's also obtaining a yield of things like firewood, fiber to make our clothes, lumber to make our houses, stone to make our houses, clay to make pottery. A yield can be anything that we value, that we harvest. It doesn't have to just be food. For me, I've talked about this in previous videos. I really, really want folks to think about a yield also means how permaculture and your garden and your home feeds your soul and your spirit as well as your body. And for me, that's growing beautiful things. I feel that if I'm out in the garden and it feels strictly like labor and not like joy and entertainment and something that enriches my mind and sorry for the cars, y'all, enriches my mind and my spirit, like why am I gardening? And if I'm growing beautiful things, then I am much more likely to be out in the garden. So I try and include flowers. Yes, if you want to talk about strictly functionality, they're good pollinator attractors. Okay, but also for me, if my garden is beautiful, I'm going to be out in it more. Okay, so again, imagine these are all baby things that are going to fill in and there will be no space anymore. I've also talked before, I like that sense of lushness and wildness in a garden. So obtain a yield, however you want to define that makes it worth your export of energy or investment of energy. So this plant right here is the one I want to discuss. I had a couple of them in this bed, one that was very large here and too large, and I took it out. This is Lonicera caerulea, the honeyberry. The other name for it is Haskap. It's got other names: fly honeysuckle, sweetberry honeysuckle. So you can tell I have it in this plum guild here. I love this plum tree. This is a very pretty, hardy, easy to grow plum tree. It really hasn't had any problem with bacterial canker or some of the other plum issues that you can get. Very productive. Produces plums late. They're ripe in September. So in this plum guild, a support plant underneath it is going to be my shrub layer is the Haskaps, the honeyberries. Underneath that, I have a peony, I have daylilies, I have lavender, there's comfrey, things like that. So in this shrub layer, I have these Haskaps, and like I said, I had two of them, and one of them, the variety got much taller than the other. So Haskaps can grow in this mounded round habit, and I don't know if you can see right back here, I have another one that's shorter. It's about 2.5 feet tall, and this one is almost 4 feet tall. And then they can also have an upright form. So the other one was getting close to 4.5, 5 feet tall, and was pushing up against this plum tree. And so I took it out, and I put it elsewhere in the garden. So Lonicera caerulea is a honeysuckle. It is native to Canada, Japan, parts of Russia, all the way into Poland, and also parts of the United States. It is a cooler weather crop. So if you live somewhere with a long, hot summer, this is not a plant for you. The reason that I started growing it is because it was kind of a really trendy, fashionable permaculture crop maybe 8-10 years ago. And I tasted several of them and I was not super thrilled. But then because it was marketed as tasting like a blueberry. It doesn't taste like a blueberry, y'all. It tastes like a blueberry with a bunch of lemon juice poured on it. It's very tart. And honestly, I find the flavor of blueberry a little bit better. So here's what they look like. So I'm not a big fan of fresh eating of the Haskap. They are grown widely in Canada and in Japan and in Russia and the Ukraine. So why grow them if they don't taste as good as a blueberry? When we talk about obtain a yield in permaculture, for me as a parent with a bunch of kids and somebody who loves to cook and preserve, an important yield for me is fruit. And it is fruit across the year. And Haskaps mature in mid-May, and there's not really anything else matured in mid-May except rhubarb in terms of fruit crops in my part of the country. The blackberries aren't ready yet, blueberries aren't ready yet, strawberries are not ready yet. This is the earliest berry, and they may be a little sour for the palate when raw. They make fantastic jam and syrup and good pie. They have very small seeds, kind of like a blueberry. And they have thin skins like a blueberry. Let me see. When you go to harvest these, they should just fall right off. If you have to pull hard, they're not ready yet. In fact, a classic way to harvest them is to put a sheet underneath and shake the bush, and the ones that fall off are ready. So you can see here they have a bloom on them, like a blueberry, that makes them look blue. And the fruit is, in fact, if you rub the bloom off, blackish purple, just like a blueberry. You open them up here. See if I can do this with my thumbnail. And they're very stainy, and they have these small seeds, not unlike a blueberry, except again, they're not related. But do you see how reddish purple they are? They make a really pretty jam and jelly. Real pretty. And I like the tartness of them in a jam. In fact, I mix them with lime pulp and lime zest that I use a microplane for, and they make a fantastic jam. So I have a crop. I can make a round of jam and jelly in May when my kitchen is still cool and I'm not heating up the house a lot. In fact, I've been borderline wanting to have a fire because it's been in the low 40s at night. So great time to be canning. So when we think about obtaining yield, I'm trying to plant crops where I can obtain a yield almost every month of the year. Can I harvest fruit? So my goal is starting in early April with rhubarb. I can go all the way into November with persimmons and quince. And I've got fruit every month of the year. So my May fruit is the Haskap. So here you can see the smaller one. This is a peony, by the way, that I ordered online in a box of peonies that were all supposed to be pink. And there's a white one in it. So I put it up here to have a pale pink in this bed to mix in with the yellow and the white, and it ended up being a white peony. But it is super happy here, and it is gorgeous. And I love that it's about the same height as this honeyberry, and it fits nicely under this plum tree. So this honeyberry is a little bit lower. So if you want to grow honeyberries, I'll be picking these today, the first round. They are ripe over the process of about a week or two. So again, coming out every day, throwing down a sheet, or if you want to hand pick, throwing down a sheet and shaking them, and then having the ripe ones fall off. And this way they remind me of mulberries. So if you want to grow Haskaps, conditions that they need. Like I said, they are a cooler weather crop. I have found in this front bed, they can be prone to sunburn. This bed gets quite a lot of afternoon sun. In fact, the things I have in the very front are low water plants. It doesn't need extra water once established, but it does. I'm going to walk back farther in my garden and show you another Haskap. It does need a little protection, or it can get sunburn. And what you get are these crispy curled up leaves, and you can get sunburn on the fruit. Although here it's rarely hot enough, early enough for the fruit to get sunburn. It's more later in the summer. So this is the Haskap that was in the very front of the garden and got too tall, and I cut it way back and dug it up and moved it. If you want to propagate these, they grow incredibly well by layering. In fact, prunings that I throw down often root. You need 2 varieties to set fruit. You need 2 varieties that bloom at the same time. So much like blueberries, and you can see here this Haskap, and right next to it there is a blueberry. All the fruit is still very green. The Haskap is ready to pick. You need 2 varieties. There are early and late varieties. So make sure you get ones that bloom at the same time. The flavor and shape of the plant, size of the fruit varies dramatically between varieties. I really like a variety, that one in the front yard, the first one I showed you that was larger, is called Blue Pagoda. Okay, so they do need sun. They aren't prone to any diseases for me in my garden. The only problem I've had is sunburn and windburn. So you want to keep them in a sheltered area. Here they are shielded. I have my neighbor's arborvitae hedge that really protects from, this is, the Columbia Gorge is out this way, and the east winds move in really pretty badly in the winter. And so this whole front yard is sheltered because of my neighbor's hedge. So they do well here. So you want to protect them from wind and intense sun. And then I found that I lose a little bit to the birds, but it's not terrible. You need 2 varieties, different varieties in the same bloom period. They make a great understory shrub in your fruit guilds. They require almost no pruning. What I do is in the fall when they lose their leaves, I go in and I take out any of the really crossed branches and some of the really old ones, and you can prune them for size. They're very low maintenance. Great permaculture plant, produces that early yield. So I'm going to be talking more about the permaculture principle of obtaining yield over the next couple of weeks, probably all throughout the summer, because really that's part of why we're gardening, right? So thank you for watching this video about Lonicera caerulea and a little bit about permaculture principles. And I will be back tomorrow. Sorry about this car going by, y'all. If you enjoyed this video, despite the car noise, please like it. Please let me know what questions you have. I got a request to cover my hardy kiwis, so I will be doing that soon. They are not yet flowering or fruiting, so I'll do that a little later in the season when there's more to see out of them. But if you have requests, please let me know. I'd love to cover them. Please subscribe to my channel. Please share it with your friends so that I can keep making videos for y'all. Thanks.